What's something you saw that you definitely were not supposed to see? When I was younger, I was at a friend's house sleeping over playing video games on the N64. We wanted a late night snack and went downstairs to get some cookies. We saw his mum with another man kissing, wasn't sure if it got to the other point, in the lounge as he cried and said, "You're not my dad." And sadly, this was the last time I spoke to him because he had to move away with his father. Story 2. When I was 7, I was playing hide and go seek with my cousins at my grandma's house. I hid in the wicker laundry basket with the lid closed. This is awesome, I thought to myself, as only a child discovering the greatest hiding place can feel. I could see through the small gaps in between the wicker. It was in my grandma's bathroom and 2 feet in front of the toilet. My grandma walked through the bathroom door not 30 seconds later after I contorted myself and closed the lid above me. With my face pressed against the side of the hamper, my grandma walked in, sat down, and bombed that toilet. I couldn't avert my eyes, staying perfectly still so this awkward situation doesn't turn more awkward. The noises, the smell, my grandmother's parts. I won the game. I lost my innocence. That last line from OP, mwah, beautiful. Story 3. Nothing like I've read on this post so far, but one time right after turning 21, my dad takes me to one of his friends' new bars. We're drinking, having fun. I realize at one point I lost my dad, so I go looking for him. I find him in the back room. He's with one of my friends that works in the kitchen at the restaurant we all work at together, and my dad is instantly like, "Get out of here, don't look, just go." It took me a couple of years to realize they were doing lines off the pinball machine. Story 4. I walked in on a black market plastic surgery, hanging out with a buddy from middle school. Was shady about only staying in his room and entering through his back door and being quiet. We were leaving and I turned down the wrong hall to his kitchen and there was a doctor and assistants in scrubs. Tubes, machines, and plastic wrap everywhere. I was ushered out, screamed at, and told not to talk about it. Edit. This happened years ago while a freshman in college and was either a lipo or a tummy tuck, I don't know. He told me the doc only did those and Botox if I remember correctly. This was done in a low middle class neighborhood, so not super ghetto. To me, it was not done in a clean environment, but hey, who am I to judge? Of all the things I would get off the black market, plastic surgery is just not on the list. I don't know any other way to say it. Story 5. I went to pay a ticket I got while driving with my headlights turned off. I walked into the courthouse office I was supposed to be in and looked through the glass to see the elected male sheriff giving the female magistrate a back and shoulder rub. They both went white when I knocked on the glass. The sheriff immediately stopped and walked to another room. The magistrate gave me the weirdest look and said, "I guess Christmas came early for you." Stamp. And gave me the receipt of the voided ticket. Sometimes it pays to see things you're not supposed to. This is absolutely the best possible scenario for something like this. Great timing, OP. Story 6. My mom's old friend came over. She's a little crazy, but sweet too. She said I looked just like her daughter, and then spent about 10 minutes scrolling through her camera roll with me to find a picture of her. In the process, I saw 2 to 3 dong pics. She was a bit embarrassed, but just said, "I'm sure you've seen a dong before, sorry." I assured her it was fine. Honestly, by the looks of the dong, I was more concerned for her. Story 7. When I was a kid, one time I went through my grandma's jewelry box. I found a little flash drive at the bottom mixed in with the miscellaneous and broken jewelry. Being as I was immediately curious as to what secrets might lie within. I plugged the flash drive into my older brother's PC. There was a video titled Oregon Farm 2011. I clicked on it and immediately saw the most horrific thing anyone could possibly imagine. It was a bald man with an extremely large dong inserted in my grandma's mouth. I panicked and immediately turned off the screen. It was too late. The image was burned into my mind. I put the flash drive back. I've never said anything about it and don't plan on it. I'll probably take it to the grave. Well, OP, you screw around, you find out. Story 8. My parents' adult tape. They put it at the end of one of our family home videos. To my horror, I was showing my boyfriend at the time our home videos so he could see me as a baby. So the video cuts, goes to fuzzy gray for a minute, and then cuts straight to my 80s mom on the couch, pleasuring herself, and then saw my dad pull out his dong and balls while smiling at the camera before I could rush to turn it off. Forever burned in my mind. Story 9. I saw one really weird message and then got sucked into reading a whole huge text chain of my dad's really disgusting intimate text messages with his girlfriend, wherein he refers to her by the same and very specific and highly personalized nickname that he has referred to me as since I was a child. It was like a train wreck. I couldn't look away. The messages had a really strong DDLG fetish vibe as well, and I have never recovered. It seems he refers to her by nickname whenever they're being intimate or romantic. For more horrific context, the nickname isn't some common thing like baby girl. It's a reference to a misprint on my soccer jersey from middle school. It's incredibly specific, sounds a lot like my actual name. This girlfriend of his heard him refer to me by that nickname probably hundreds of times, so it can't be lost on her. Also, it sounds nothing even close to her own name. I have racked my brain a million times about it to try and make myself feel even slightly less grossed out, but I only ever feel more upset. It seems most likely that they do some kind of intimate roleplay wherein she roleplays as me with my dad. I have no idea why else they would be using that nickname for their intimate life. So I'm traumatized and haven't looked at my dad the same way since, but I sure as hell don't want to ask him about it. I haven't told anyone in my life about this because what do you even do about that? It's the only thing I haven't told my fiance about because I think he might actually murder him if he knew. OP has a couple more edits, just so you know, but I'm not going to read them out because it's kind of long and it's mostly just like, yeah, this is really weird. I couldn't believe it. But, whew. Yikes, OP, that's not something that you would ever want to know. I'm sorry, you must feel incredibly violated or something. I wouldn't even know, but I am incredibly sorry because, yuck. Story 10. Living out in the country when I was 10 years old. My parents went to the local video rental place and brought back a few VHSs. They told me to pop in Planet of the Apes. I did, and whoever had it before didn't rewind, and started it mid-video, and all you heard was moaning, and all I saw was an eye full of dong and kitty. And I stared glued to the TV, and my parents freaked out and ran to turn it off. Apparently, the small video rental store back then doubled as an adult video store as well, and they somehow accidentally grabbed a copy of Playmate of the Apes by accident. With all the parody titles and adult content, that's a risky business. Video store doubling as an adult video store? Whew, I bet that's not the first time that's happened. Story 11. Yesterday, my dog was barking while I was FaceTiming a friend. I went out to the gate to see what he was barking at. It's 9 feet high. I peeped through the handhole to see my next door neighbor peeing on the land between our places. I saw his dong and then he was looking at my eye and he said, "It's okay, buddy," which is my dog's name. So yesterday I saw my next door neighbor's dong and then held eye contact for a second. Story 12. A frisky text from my dad clearly meant for my mom. Also, unfortunately, my dad's dong. Thankfully not in person. He just didn't delete his photos before giving a 12-year-old his old phone. Rookie mistake. Story 13. When I was 7 or 8, I watched my 70-plus neighbor have a heart attack and drop to the ground. Face completely blue, eyes rolling into the back of his head about a meter away from me. I feel like there was blood too, but I'm not 100% sure. I had to run and get an adult to call an ambulance. I'm positive I saw him momentarily die, but the paramedics managed to bring him back. No child should have to see that. It's screwed up. Story 14. Borrowed my now ex-husband's laptop one evening while I was at home and he was out with friends. Browser was open to his Gmail account, including an ongoing Google chat with his mistress. He must have been chatting with her on his phone because their convo continued on the screen as I looked on in horror. I scrolled back through the previous several weeks of their chat. He mentioned having a wife. He sent her dong pics, many dong pics. He gushed over his feelings for her, but she mostly seemed to want to hit him up for money. It was horrifying, of course, but also a terribly sad look into that D-bags in her life. Divorced now, thankfully. Good riddance to bad rubbish. Story 15. I'm a med student, and had the privilege of taking practices in the rural area outside of my city. The university offered a transport bus to take you to the different hospitals in case transport was an issue. I used to sit on the front row behind the bus driver so I could look at the road to avoid the motion sickness that I usually get in road trips. One morning when we were about to depart, the bus driver climbed inside the vehicle, and when he was about to sit, someone came inside the bus and shot him 6 times with what I believe was a big revolver. He died on the spot. Blood loss was out of control because, as I learned later, one of the bullets pierced through his aorta. On a selfish note, I'm glad the murderer was wearing a motorcycle helmet and I couldn't see his face, because I swear that after he was done with the shooting, he looked right at me, and for a second contemplated the idea of getting rid of the witness. I was afraid of coming to my uni for the rest of the year and someday being unalived. Rest in peace, Mr. Bayron. You were the quickest and coolest bus driver I ever met, even when that made me really dizzy. Story 16. When I was around 10 years old, my mom and I went to visit an aunt and uncle, as my uncle, my mom's brother, had just had a major surgery. During the visit, my aunt and my mom cooked a big dinner, and my aunt tells me to go call my cousin to eat dinner. I go to his room and open the door to be greeted by the sight of guns lining the bed, and I vividly remember seeing bricks of what I later learned were coke and big burlap sacks of weed. I blurted out, "Your mom said come and eat," and immediately slammed the door shut. It was no secret to anyone in our family the type of business that our cousins were in. He came out of his room a few minutes later and scolded me for not knocking. I was scared crapless. But the young kid brain in me was also extremely fascinated to see that they were real-life drug lords. Story 17. My wife's stepmom dated a guy who shared my name. She sent a topless picture to the wrong contact. She was around 60 at the time. I deleted it and took the opportunity to get off my butt and down to the cell phone shop for a new phone and a new number. I then texted all of my contacts, saying I'd gotten a new number and may have missed anything they sent in the last 4 hours. I created for a perfect excuse for us to never speak of even the possibility of something so wrong, but I still haven't drunk enough to forget it. Story 18. A few years ago, a cousin of a female friend got back from Afghanistan recently discharged. Let's call my friend Lucy and her cousin Mike. Didn't know Mike well, but Lucy and Mike were fairly close. We were using Skype to play Magic the Gathering with him at distance, and usually about 5 or 6 of us in person. We're in California, Mike's in Alabama. Lucy wanted to include him on the fun we'd have after classes and such, so we were trying to figure out a distance solution to include him. Mike seemed like a nice enough guy. Anyhow, we're midway through a game when Mike says into the camera, "I'm gonna go get another beer, I'll be right back." We're still going through turns, so it's all good. The laptop is angled in such a way that it's directly facing Lucy. I can see it at a slight angle from the right, and another friend, Nina, beside Lucy, is participating on her left. A couple minutes pass. We figure he's using the restroom or whatnot. No big deal. The next part I remember is in slow motion. It's surreal. Everyone's laughing and socializing while this happens. Mike comes back and sits down, and I get this weird feeling. Like this deep pit opens in my stomach and my skin feels overly sensitive. Friend across the table looks concerned and says something like, "You okay?" Because I stopped talking suddenly and must have gone pale. I didn't answer back. I was watching the laptop. Mike is hiding his hands and I don't see any beer. Nina says, "Hey, Mike's back," and everyone starts picking up their cards. Mike says something to the effect of, "Just a sec, I want to show you guys something," real cheery like. He pulls out a pistol and does a sort of salute movement with it and then shoots himself in the temple with a .44. Cue chaos, screaming, vomiting, ugly crying, frantic phone calls, and a crappy night. Part of me is really sad for Mike, but the greater part of me wants to tell him to go screw himself for traumatizing 2 friends of mine, one severely and subjecting me to it in the process. Hurt his cousin on purpose as a last act, as suddenly and brutally as possible. Screw you, Mike, but rest in peace. Look, there really are no 2 ways about something like this. It's just a horrible thing to do. Obviously, you have to be in absurd amounts of mental distress to even consider doing it, but I think it's okay that if that happens to you or people you know, you don't have to forgive the person, as cruel as that might seem. This story did not go at all where I thought it would. Story 19. When I was about 9 years old, I was sat in my mom's car at a T-junction, right at the front, and I was in the passenger seat. On the opposite side of the T-junction was a hill with a bunch of houses on it and a path going directly up the hill which had quite tall fences on either side. I could see a woman walking down the hill with a big pushchair in front of her, and her view of the path along the road was obstructed by the fences. She just walked out onto the path, pushchair first, and didn't see that there was a guy on a bike cycling along the pathway. He couldn't see her either as she was obscured by the fence. He swerved to miss the pushchair and came flying off his bike and straight into the road. Just at the moment, a lorry drove by and ran straight over his head. Me and my mum saw everything. She quickly put her hand in front of my face so I couldn't see, but it was too late. I can still remember the woman's screams and seeing the blood splattered on the road. My mum had to stick around to tell police what had happened as we saw the whole thing play out. I remember my mum taking me home and buying us pizza and us spending the whole night on the sofa under the duvet as it clearly messed her up too. I had nightmares about it for years, but I haven't thought about it for a little while until I started reading some of the other stories here. Are you proud of yourself, person who posted this question? You just brought up trauma for this poor OP. On a more serious note, because that was mostly joking, that is just truly unfortunate. I really hope after that the whole fence situation was changed around because that is bad. Story 20. In the 7th grade, I was walking out of the locker room. I heard the girls' locker room door open and me being a human responded at a sudden noise. I looked over to see one of the girls walk out. We make normal human eye contact. At this point, everything is normal. But in the corner of my eye, I was somehow at the perfect angle to see one of my classmates with her pants down. Needless to say, I worked hard to consciously not look in that direction again. Story 21. My wife sleeping clothed with another dude in our bed on New Year's Eve. To get a little more in depth, I was working a door shift at a bar that night. Got no texts throughout the evening from her saying Happy New Year. So when I got home, I'm walking down the stairs to our part of the house and I noticed the TV is on. So I'm like, what the hell? She's still awake and our bedroom light is on. I walk over and see her and this dude passed out on the bed, fully clothed, but all the sheets had been removed. I yelled, "What the hell?" And they both jolted up. All I remember saying is, "Get the frick out of my house. No, you're not putting your shoes on. Get the frick out," to the guy. I grabbed his backpack and whatever else he had and threw it out on the front door in our driveway. My wife and I didn't really say much that night. She left 10 minutes later to stay at the hotel she worked at. Also, the dude worked there too. Soon she moved into that same hotel after we broke up. We tried to work things out for a bit, but the fact that she became an alcoholic and was very abusive in the past, I just had enough. Fast forward, I've been in a super healthy relationship for 4 years. She went to rehab. Then she moved to a different state and became a druggie and was arrested 5 times. Funny note, I'm a huge Denver Nuggets fan and I go to a lot of games. Turns out this guy was part of the crew who does backflips during commercial breaks. I had to see this son of a gun over and over. OP, I just want to say, I'm proud of you for leaving that. You do not need that in your life, and I bet you are so much better off now. Story 22. Oh lord, where do I start? My 72-year-old grandma butt naked getting out of the shower, no towel. I was 6 and it gave me nightmares. My mom's breasts, because she enjoys taking her bra off through her tank top armhole, but her breasts don't always want to stay inside the torso. My dad's dong when I was 7 because he showers with the curtain open like an absolute psycho. My elderly Jehovah's Witness neighbors banging because they thought I was 18. I was 6'3" at 13, and told my mom to send me over to make some money. A surgeon with his hand in my stomach. Story 23. Many years ago, in the early days of the Doritos Locos Tacos, I was at an empty Taco Bell with my now husband, just enjoying some artery-clogging food, when all of a sudden a bunch of guys in suits came into the Taco Bell to sit down and have a meeting. This Taco Bell was in the hood, so they were very out of place. My husband ignored them, but I did my best to listen in. They were discussing plans for a new menu item, but I couldn't tell what exactly. Then, in the corner of my eye, I saw what I was certain was a prototype wrapper for a Cool Ranch Doritos Loco Taco. The suits left before we did. I told my husband what I saw as soon as they left. Sure enough, about a month later, this Taco Bell became one of the first test restaurants for the Cool Ranch Doritos Locos Tacos, which was released nationwide soon after. Story 24. My best friend and I decided to have a joint 16th birthday party since we're only a month apart. She was over at my house and we decided to use our family computer to create party invites in Photoshop. Open the program and lo and behold, turns out Photoshop automatically opens the last project it was used for. My dad had been photoshopping a picture from the 80s of my mom spread eagle on the couch pleasuring herself with him standing next to her holding his dong. We both screamed and tried to close the project with our eyes shut. After we had done so and recovered, we went about making our party invites. Only for round 2 of horror when we went to save the project. The program opened the recently saved projects folder and well, you can imagine what those were. A year or so later, my parents had gone away for their wedding anniversary and I invited my boyfriend and his best mate over one night, since I was home alone and bored. They knew about the Photoshop incident and decided to further explore the computer. I didn't really care either way, so let them have their fun. That night they ended up finding over 1 terabyte of adult content on my dad's second hard drive, from furry stuff to clown stuff. Oh, and of course many more photo shoots of my parents' frisky adventures, including trios and quads, with family friends who I'd known since I was born. I do also have a very early memory of getting out of bed one night because I had a nightmare intending to cuddle with my mom and dad. I was maybe 5 or 6. There was a couple staying with us at the time. The guy was my dad's friend from high school, I think. My parents had a small courtyard attached to the bedroom. I walked into the bedroom and could hear them in the courtyard. The glass door in between had a curtain across it. I peeked between the gap in the curtain and saw my mom and the other woman sitting around a table, no tops on. And my dad was fondling the other woman's breasts and the other bloke was doing the same too and kissing my mum. They were all drinking and smoking. I never knew my parents to smoke at any other time. I legged it back to bed quick smart. That nightmare was definitely worse than my unconscious one. Look, OP, gotta say, kinda weird to let people just go through your parents' intimate stuff on computers. Just seems like a weird breach of privacy that I don't love the idea of. That being said, 1 terabyte is a lot. Like that's a lot of stuff. I'm assuming this is in the past as well, so that's like a lot of stuff. Oh my god. And about the nightmare, that is, unfortunate. Should've just toughed it out with the spooky monsters. Anyway, that is all the stories we have for today. I'm sure you all have some stories to contribute as well, don't you? If you do, throw them in the comments. Especially if you have some spicy stuff. But for now, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you in the next one.